welcome you to this portion of Commissioner College today. We're going to be talking about collaborative assessments and unit service plans. We're really going to be speaking today commissioner language. If you're not a commissioner, this may be a new venture for you, but I hope that all of you will feel welcome to ask questions, put them in the chat as we go through this today. I'm reminded of a story that I was told many years ago about a cat and a mouse. A family was leaving in a hurry and left their dinner plates on the table with, as you know, scraps of food. A mouse comes out of his hiding place, climbs up the table, and begins to enjoy dinner. When all of a sudden in the room, he spies the cat. Takes the cat a few seconds to look at the table and realize that there's his dinner sitting on top of the table. So as you can imagine, the cat jumps up, starts to chase the mouse, and the mouse runs for his hiding place and makes it before the cat can get him. Pretty soon, the mouse hears woof, 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 woof. Meow, meow, woof, woof, meow. And of course, the mouse thinks that the dog came in and chased the cat out. So he wants to go finish his dinner and runs out of his hiding place right into the paws of the cat. And the cat opens one of his claws, and the mouse says, "I thought the dog chased you away." And the cat says, "Well, that's the advantage of speaking two languages." So today, I hope I can speak a language that you as commissioners and scout leaders understand. All right, so the objective of the course today is threefold. One, to identify the critical elements in what we're calling a collaborative detailed assessment. And we'll define that in just a minute. Two is to review the process by which a commissioner and the key three for the unit can do a unit service plan. And the last one is to understand the role and the involvement of the district operating committee in supporting a unit. So those are the three objectives. So unit commissioners' responsibilities. As you heard previously from Jim, contacting units is one of the key responsibilities of the commissioner. Documenting the strengths and the needs and a unit service plan in commissioner tools is the function. Another key responsibility is linking unit needs to the district. Timely recharter. We're just all going through that now. And then delivering effective roundtables. Providing program ideas, timely communication, and relationship development is what roundtable's about. Those are the commissioner's responsibilities. I want to show you for a minute the council performance for the Crossroads of the West Council on doing assessments, whether they be single, simple assessments, or whether they be detailed assessments. Difficult to see on your screen there, but there aren't many totals for the year that have been done in the council on a detailed assessment. And the way they score it, unless you do a detailed assessment, your simple assessments don't count. So this becomes a critical issue for you as commissioners. So what are contacts? What are they? Well, the BSA's defined a contact as a meaningful exchange between a commissioner and one or more leaders of the unit. There are different types. When are they done? Who does them? How are they done? All questions that as a commissioner we ask ourselves. Well, there are two basic types, a simple and a detailed. A simple should be done every other month at a minimum or as often as a contact is made. It's a very simple review. I timed how long it took to do a review once, and you can do a review in less than 13 minutes. So as a commissioner, even though you're busy, doing a simple review is, as it says, very simple. A detailed review, as you heard from Jim Bethel, is much more detailed. There are two types of detailed reviews. There's a normal detailed review. And so now I'm going to ask some questions. What is a normal detailed review? Has anyone had experience with doing a normal detailed review? Well, a normal detailed review can be done without the unit key 3. You can do it alone as a commissioner. A collaborative detailed review is different. Either one should be done at least every 6 months, and there is more detail in both of them. So contacts really are the responsibility to be performed by the unit commissioner. He takes the lead or she takes the lead. So what is a collaborative assessment? It's a detailed assessment with these important components. The unit key 3 and the commissioner have to be there. It isn't collaborative unless all 4 are in attendance. It's a prescribed checklist of what to assess, and it starts with a formal letter of invitation. So how do you start a collaborative assessment? Well, as Jim indicated in his previous presentation, you go online into my.scouting.org and choose to do a detailed assessment. One of the key differences between a normal detailed assessment and a collaborative is a collaborative assessment, you choose to do it in the future. You choose a future date. And then the assessment is a step-by-step process in the application itself. So here's a slide that shows my.scouting.org. You've seen this before. Again, as this has been repeated, only a commissioner can get in to this version of my.scouting. So you're going to click on menu up in the upper left-hand corner. And then you're going to choose your respective district in your council. The next slide that comes up is this landing page. You saw this in a previous presentation. This is for a different district than what we saw earlier today. Gives a lot of detail on here, but the one area that you're looking for when you do an assessment is right there. Click on contacts. Once you click on contacts, it brings up this screen and shows you the troops or packs or whatever it might be that you can assess. In this case, We selected Troop 519. So you want to click that box. And then you want to go add a new contact. Once you start that new contact, it gives you now the process by which you've got to do an assessment. So here is the next screen. It pre-populates some of the information. There are drop downs so you can change the data. Pre-populated my name. I put a date in there, and then I've got to make an assessment on whether the unit help is the same, improving, or changed. In this case, I said it was unchanged. Once you decide which assessment you're going to do, you input the date. If you input a future date, it gives you the opportunity to then select the detailed, and you can see here a new screen. This is the key 3 that's registered for the unit. So now I can select the names of the key 3. There's the date. You can see it's in the future. And I can put in another person I want to copy if I do, or I can put my name in there, and it will send the following email to the key 3 and to me. So this is a standard email that's generated in Commissioner Tools, but I can change this. So if I want to do a different email, I can go in and modify this letter. But I want to review this letter because it becomes a critical part of the assessment. Our council, or your council, has begun using the new Commissioner Tools on My.Scouting. As a unit commissioner, my top priority is to help you and your unit deliver the best possible scouting experience to your youth. I'm sending you and the other members of the Key 3 a unit assessment form directly from the tools that can help us walk through the process. Please take a few minutes in collaboration with the other members of the unit's Key 3 to complete it. During my next visit, I hope to discuss with you the results of this assessment. A link to this form is below. If you click on the link and the program does not open, do not give up, copy and paste it in your browser and try it. Click here to view your information. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. So that's the standard letter that comes from you as the commissioner in a collaborative assessment. This letter is not generated when you do a detailed assessment on your own. So that's why there are 2 types of assessments. Are there any questions up until this point in the collaborative assessment process? All right, let's proceed. What does a commissioner do in an assessment? Well, you can go to this screen that Jim showed us, and you have pre-formatted questions for the commissioner to use in the assessment. Each one of the categories have these questions. The questions are detailed. Jim reviewed them with you. I'm not going to take the time to review them with you right now. But if you print out the questionnaire form, you've got them as a guide or an aid in helping you as you do the assessment. There are 5 categories that you have to assess. You select one of the categories and do the evaluation. There are questions in each category as indicated. Each category, excuse me, must be scored, indicating how well the unit is performing. As we've said before, these categories are aligned with the Journey to Excellence categories, so they're coordinated. The questions help you to know what to score the unit performance on. So you can click on the score you think the unit deserves for that topic. And then you want to make comments. And I want to stop right here. The comments become an absolute essential part of the assessment, not just scoring it, but giving them some feedback so they know what to do to improve the unit performance. So these comments can then be viewed when you go to set your unit service plan. Here's the unit scoring matrix. A score of 5 means near perfect. A score of 1 means it's pretty weak. I think one of the challenges we have as commissioners is being honest in the assessment and telling the unit exactly where they're at. You see the criteria that's listed. A good unit is 3. There is some improvement that can be made, but they're meeting on a regular basis. Commissioners should add comments as well as a numerical score. I can't stress that enough. Assessments can be added for up to 60 days after a contact. So you don't need to do your contact and then run home and write it up and put it in Commissioner Tools. You can do it up to 60 days, which helps a lot because with a commissioner, they're busy. There's a lot going on. And changes to a saved assessment can be done for up to 3 days after you do the input. Note that if you score a unit 1 or 2, there's a special report in Commissioner Tools that highlights all the units that have been scored 1 or 2 because they need some assistance right away. Stress again the importance of comments. We'll look at some of those as we get into this, but they don't have to be detailed. They can be very simple. They've made the tool very easy, so as you go through the categories, if you want to repeat a score, you can click on repeat the score for the category. Once you're done, then you can see the finished contacts that have been made and their evaluation. If I was a unit leader and I got this, this would tell me where I need to focus my efforts. So this is a very valuable tool for assessing what can be done to improve the unit, and more importantly, to help the boys and the girls in the unit so that the scout troop is functioning efficiently and helping them learn. As you heard earlier, in a collaborative detailed assessment, you can check this box, and that will start the process for doing a service plan. A unit service plan. What is a unit service plan? You saw on the scorecard for the Crossroads of the West Council that for the first several months, there were no service plans generated. In general, that is what's going on right now in scouting. They may do detailed assessments, but they leave the service plan out. Part of the detailed collaborative assessment is to do a service plan. Well, what is a service plan? A service plan is a strategic plan of what the unit needs to do to fulfill the categories of the detailed assessment. Training and membership, planning and budget, membership itself, volunteer leadership. Those are the 5, and then unit priorities and other details can be added to the strategic plan. Now, if you look at all that and think, oh my word, it's going to take me forever to get a service plan done. Well, that's really not true. It may look like a big gulp of water to swallow at once, but a unit service plan only needs to address those areas that need assistance. If they're doing fine, you don't need to spend the time to write up what needs to be done to improve. You can, but not required. So you may have a service plan that only covers one of these categories. That makes this a little easier to swallow and to get done. Have any of the commissioners online listening done a service plan for their unit? Oh, I see some heads nodding. That's great. Congratulations. I commend you for that. You want to make any comments about that? Jenny, any comments? Unmute yourself. I saw your head, Bobby.
It can be painful if the person's unwilling to take suggestions or work with you, but if you have a really good team to work on it together, I don't know, that's just what I found. Not everybody's willing to look at it in the same way that you are from the outside, so.
Very good comment. Sometimes the key 3 looks at this as you're giving them a report card.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it's received a little negative. And so, as you heard from Jim, there are some do's and don'ts when doing an assessment. You want to go in there with the attitude to help them, not to criticize them. So you're not in there to say, well, you failed and you got to change this. That's not the approach you want to use. An assessment needs to be collaborative.
If they're the ones that have come up with the ideas on what they need to improve, then they have a lot more buy-in than if you're imposing your decision on them. So that to me seems like a real advantage. I haven't done a collaborative evaluation and I haven't gotten into a service plan, but it seems that that's the reason to have the collaborative evaluation first, is so that they have buy-in.
Dave, you're exactly right. If you let them determine what needs to be done to improve the unit, then it's not you. You may facilitate the process, but the discussion, Dave, among themselves, the key 3 on what can be done. I did a collaborative assessment, with a unit, and I took in the training report, and they were flabbergasted that most of the leaders in their unit had not been formally trained. And so it was an eye-opening process for them. And the first thing they wanted to know was, how they could find the classes that they need to take.
Most don't understand what it takes to be trained. They just think they're doing youth protection and boom, you're magically trained. They don't understand that there's a lot more beyond the youth protection.
Well, that's a good statement, Jenny. That's true.
The other problem I've seen with this is it has to be connected to the goals of actually training, or not necessarily training, but educating the youth in the unit. And if they don't see the benefits of it, then they're just not going to do it.
That's a good point, Lee. I agree with you.
It was suggested through our commissioner cabinet to use the JTE as the basis for the questions in a collaborative or a detailed assessment. It's a little less intimidating than going through the sheet of questions. You're getting the same information, but if you're using the JTE as your basis for the questions, they're a little more familiar with it, and it's not as intimidating.
That's true. And it gives you some coordination with the JTE so that it's not a surprise. In our council, when you recharter, you have to fill out the JTE form, and some of them have never looked at it. So I totally agree. That's a very good comment. Thank you. Other comments about the process of getting buy-in on a plan to improve their units.
Well, I don't think that a lot of leaders understand, like someone was saying earlier, they don't understand what all it takes for this in the background. You know, they understand the scoutmaster role or the assistant scoutmaster role, but the role up to get all this information to keep our organization going. They don't get all of that. And I kind of wish that we would have even an overview in the training for different positions to let them know that this is still part of their not requirements, but their responsibility to make sure that they are communicating with their unit commissioners, because that is an issue.
Yes, it is an issue. I think as the unit commissioner becomes more familiar with the unit and they with the commissioner, that the communication becomes easier. But when you first start on it, it's a foreign language to them. They've never heard of a collaborative assessment. They've never heard of a detailed assessment. The first time I did it with the unit I'd been assigned, they didn't want to do it, to be honest with you. And the first thing out of their mouth said, well, how long is this going to take? I got another meeting I got to run to. And so it seemed like a burden to them. And so taking Lee's comment helped them understand that there's a benefit to having a service plan. It's not just check the box, it's done. There really is some benefit to the youth. And that's what this is all about. How do we maintain an ongoing program? How do we help the youth grow and develop and learn the ideals of scouting? That's really what the service plan is all about. Any other comments or experiences that you've had with the service plan? I appreciate the comments that have been made. So a service plan is really about this. It's assessing. You're trying to engage the key three, make it collaborative, identify issues, identify strengths, and then identify needs. I like this slide because sometimes people think that a service plan is just for, well, what aren't you doing right? But a service plan can be, I really like the way you're doing regular monthly campouts. And that may be what you assess in the unit service plan to let them know that there's some positive. stroke them sometimes when they're doing the things that are right. Once you've assessed where a unit is at, then you can plan. What are we going to do next? You collaborate with the key three. And remember, you're not giving them ideas. You're facilitating the discussion to help them identify ideas. You learn to prioritize. You set the goals, make it accountable. Somebody's got to have the responsibility. You schedule it, and then you review it. So a service plan is not one and done. A service plan is a process. As you meet with the key three, you just casually want to review where we're at. I don't know that the review has to be formal. You're just checking up to see if you can help in any way. Once you get that, then you want to act. You want to be a partner with the key three in helping them. You want to link their actions with the resources they need. You want to make contact with them. You want to change the service plan. It may be too stringent and you may want to modify that and then celebrate it when you've achieved one of the goals on the service plan. Those are the 3 steps in having a successful service plan. Here's the screen some of you who have attended the previous class have seen, but it allows you to create the service plan. You have a category that you're going to work on. You have a target date, and then you have an actual completion date. So you want to select one of your 5 categories. You're going to set a date when you want it to be done. And then you can describe some detail as to what it really is. And this is optional. You do or don't have to put in an actual completion date, which means you'd have to come back in after time and put the date that it was completed. Why would you want to put a completion date? Anyone want to venture a guess? Go ahead and just unmute yourself and answer it.
To know that it's been done.
Say that again.
Just to, if by putting in a completion date, you know that it's been completed, it's been done.
Yeah, you're not leaving it open because they've done it. If you get a new scoutmaster, the scoutmaster could come in and you could review what the service plan was. That gives him some background. So now he knows that, oh, this has already been done. That's great. So this is all about giving the feedback to help the unit do and perform better. All right, here's an example of what a service plan might be. You see it's under the planning and budget category. You see the target completion date. They didn't put in an actual date, but the unit needs guidance on developing a unit budget and proper fundraising methods. And that's it. That's the service plan for that category. So it doesn't have to be complex nor detailed. It's really pretty simple. Then you want to identify who's going to do it.
Wendell, before we go on, if a unit service plan is that simple and so on, is the only way we can create one by going through a collaborative assessment? Or can we is there a way we can get to developing a service plan just from something that we observe as commissioners and work through it?
Well, I think you bring up a very good point. It doesn't have to be in Commissioner Tools. Okay, you could develop a service plan without it. The reason why we put it in Commissioner Tools is to have a reference so that future leaders can see what's going on, or even yourself, because sometimes our memories aren't that long and we need to be prompted as to what's done. So the answer to your question is yes, you can create a service plan outside of Commissioner Tools. I've seen some very good service plans created just strategically on the fly with scout leaders. Does that answer your question?
There is,
I think that does.
there
I
is
think-
another reason for putting it in Commissioner Tools, though. That means it gets transmitted to the roundtable people at where where does this guidance happen? This example you've got up, Wendell, you've got unit needs guidance on whatever it is. Where does that happen? Does that have to come from the unit commissioner? And the answer is no. That should happen at roundtable.
Yeah, you could use this information. That's a very good point.
This is where you communicate roundtable. Roundtable people should be looking at this and saying, oh, we've got all kinds of units out there that need this kind of thing. So that's what we address in roundtable. It's the way that's supposed to work anyway.
Yeah, and it should, Lee, I agree. It gives you the feedback to the roundtable group as to what their monthly program should be. If you're seeing a weakness, go address the weakness. That good comment, Lee. Thank you. Other comments? I like the fact they didn't put the name of the person, but the position. So it's the treasurer. Because this way, if a new treasurer comes in, then they can address what the issue is. So the last category or objective of the course today was to tie the needs of the unit to the resources of the district. And this is the weakest link in the service plan creation. Identifying district resources is very hard. For example, many troops don't use the order of the arrow effectively in doing training in their troop. Many councils have skills courses that troops don't know about, and so they don't link their need on a particular skill to the need of the troop. For example, in the Crossroads of the West Council, there are several COPE courses throughout the council, but many troops never venture on the COPE course. And a COPE course can be a great learning experience for youth. So identifying a district resource really is something that the district commissioner needs to take the lead on and provide that information to the commissioners and to the troops so that they can use those resources in their troop meetings and activities. Allowing the unit to properly utilize the resource improves the training and understanding of the scouts in the unit. For example, I know in the Thurston Peaks district, there are several people who are very skilled at a compass course, but they don't get used. The only time they use them is on a camp out when there's a compass course that's going to be held. But you could use that in a troop meeting. So this is an area that as commissioners and district commissioners, we can improve upon. So a commissioner is really the project manager for a service plan. Resources should be provided. You should evaluate the effectiveness of the resource. A unit can take advantage of the resources. Commissioner is a coach, he's a mentor. And then we evaluate when a unit service plan adjustments are needed. All items we've discussed. So again, a commissioner's core task is to make contacts with units over the course of a year. The contacts provide opportunities to coach and to improve. The strengths and needs should be captured in these contacts and in the service plan, and then recorded in Commissioner Tools. Here is a resource on collaborative assessments on YouTube. And I would really encourage you to look at this before you go do a collaborative assessment. It's excellent. It's very well done. And then another one on the service plan. It provides some details as to what should be in a service plan and how to do it. All right, just about out of time. Any other questions or answers to questions that any of you may have? My challenge to you would be, if you're a commissioner, in the next 2 months, I would ask you to go do a collaborative detailed assessment with your unit. It will be a challenge the first time you do it, but there are very positive things that come out of it. I'll give you an example. With one of the units I did a collaborative assessment on, one of the key three decided that he would take the training, all the training required for his position as committee chair. So he went in, found the profile online, and there were several courses he had to take, but took them all. So it really can have a positive impact on the preparation of the leaders and the performance of the unit by giving them positive feedback in both a collaborative assessment and a unit service plan.
Quick question before we leave is that last slide with the YouTube videos. Can that slide be made available, or is there a way to screen capture it?
Yes, we're recording all of the sessions today. So you can go online and get that and then load it in your browser to watch it. It's very informative.
And then second question is, you kept referring to a previous class. Which class was that?
It was the one on contacting units.
Thank you.
You bet. Good questions.
Wendell, you showed a letter that gets sent out to the unit key 3 earlier on one of the slides. Where is that found? Or is
That's
that
found
something that your council sets up?
Nope, it's in Commissioner Tools. This
Yeah.
letter right here.
Right, where would I find that?
So when you go in to this slide right here,
Okay,
after you selected the names and hit enter, it brings up the letter
okay,
and allows you then to go in and tailor the letter. As you can see, I took the general format they've got in there, and unfortunately there are some errors in the letter.
right.
But you can correct those and tailor this and customize this for your unit. Did it answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. So you're going into the unit information?
No, It's right in the assessment itself. When you click
Because I
on,
didn't, I went in and looked on a unit and I didn't see it, so that's why I was asking the question.
sure, that's a good question. I had a problem with it initially too.
Okay,
I tried to do a detailed assessment without being in the future. And that's the key.
got it.
So when you set that date in the future, then this screen comes up
Okay,
and allows you to send and create the email letter.
that was
And
the step I was missing. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. My pleasure.
And Wendell, can I ask a question about that?
You bet.
Do you suggest that you kind of like make that future appointment with them beforehand, or just kind of make it in Commissioner Tools when you set this up, and maybe it actually happens that day and maybe it doesn't?
That's a very good question, Annalise. I think there's some pro and con for it. Once you've established the process, I think it's very easy to just informally contact them and set the date. I think when you do the first assessment, they need to understand it is a formal process. And it helps them understand the importance of it by establishing the date. Now you can change that date if they respond and say, hey, I can't make that time. But I think doing it the first time, you establishing the meeting becomes critical for them to understand the process.
Okay.
It sounds to me like you need to plan it far enough in advance that they have the opportunity to adjust their plans to meet that, instead of for like next week or something, maybe a month out or something like that.
What I've found is doing it in conjunction with committee meeting makes it very simple because you've already got them there. So you get the key three to stay after committee meeting and you do the assessment right after committee meeting. Then you've already got them there.
It strikes me that something that I hadn't realized before, but this puts you in charge of that meeting.
It does.
You're the person that actually is running it.
You are the project manager on that meeting. That is correctly. You
And
don't come up with the
that's-
solutions. You just facilitate.
Yeah, but that's probably the only meeting where a unit commissioner is actually in charge rather than simply being a respondent.
Yep.
Bingo, exactly. Exactly.
But once again, the whole responsibility is to facilitate them discussing what the needs of their unit are, so that they're the ones that actually own what comes out of the meeting, so that it's not just something that's being dumped on top of them.
David, that was said like a true leader.
Very good comment. I agree. So thank you very much for your attention and for attending Commissioner College today.